and I think somebody else is trying to send theirs, so I think we're good.
Well, welcome everybody. It's the Effective Resume Workshop. We're very glad you're with us. It's October 15th, halfway through the month of October. Thank you very much for joining us today. Just please note, this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career FW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, if you post a comment in the chat box or you have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your name, picture, and comments to appear. We ask that those people who are on Zoom, if you will, please go to speaker view, which is what you see in the lower left-hand corner. And the speaker view, you can then adjust that where that red arrow is, to grab those couple little white lines, and you can slide back and forth and make the speaker bigger or smaller, and make the PowerPoint slide bigger or smaller, whatever ratio suits you. For those people on Zoom, we ask that you use the chat box, enter your questions. We will be using the chat box and the participant box throughout the presentation. So just be aware of that. And, you know, as soon as you think of a question, just throw it in the chat box, and Carol will pause throughout our presentation to stop and answer any questions that we see. And for those people on Facebook, I am monitoring the feed. Just enter your questions in the comment box, and we will get those questions answered there. So I guess we already have 2 resumes, so I'll skip this slide. Well, good afternoon. 3. Oh, 3. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. I founded Career DFW back in 2008 to help the unemployed in the DFW area. In 2012, I started CareerUSA.org to help people outside the area. I also wrote a book in 2012 called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. I facilitate and lead the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, and I've been doing that since 2007. And at the end of this presentation, I'll tell you about our upcoming speaker tomorrow morning. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. Our speaker today is Carol Burkell. She's a certified professional career coach. She's been doing this for many, many weeks now. We really, really appreciate it. So Carol, thank you for being with us, and it's all yours.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jeff, for the introduction. And I will go ahead and share my screen and share my PowerPoint presentation. And I'll get into slideshow mode. And it looks like we've got a great group with us today.
Can I ask a question before you continue?
Yeah, yes, go ahead. Ask your question, David.
How do you upload that as a resume? So I got one I want to upload. Where do I do that?
Well, we're full for this week, but what you do is, if we had time when you have the chat box open, in the lower right-hand corner, there's 3 little dots. Oh no, right where it says File.
Oh, got it.
You click on File, and then you can just send it to Carol or the whole group, whatever you like to do. But we've already got the couple that we need for today. So if you want, save it for next week, and we'll get you in next week.
Okay, I was about a minute late coming in. So. Okay.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's everybody's favorite part of the session, is to get to see resumes live. So thank you. I think we've already gotten 3 today. We may get through 1 or 2 offline. And if I don't get to all your comments to those 3 people that have submitted yours, you're welcome to follow up with me if you have any additional questions. So the first thing I'd like to do is, because we designed these to be fun and interactive, is have everyone click on the participant box in the lowest part of your screen and bring up the participant box, and it gives you the ability to interact with a little green check mark or red X. So if you've seen one of these Resume Thursday sessions before, click on the green X or green check mark in the participant box, and the red X if you've never seen one of our Resume Thursday sessions. We have quite a few repeat people. Welcome back. And we do try to cover new content every time. And we always look at a different resume every time. So we learn something new, and I learn something new every time. And then a few people, this is your first time, and so welcome, welcome. And the other function that we use a lot during this session is the chat box. So if you could click on that and open it up as well. And when you see me looking this way, I'm looking at my other monitor where I have the chat box and the participant box open. And that's where you can submit questions to me throughout the presentation. And between breaths, I can kind of pause and answer the questions at the appropriate time. And to get us started and warmed up using the chat function, I'd like for everyone to go in and type a few words, because I know all of you are hard workers out there. I see some familiar names and a few new names, but I'm curious, what do you think is the best enhancement you've made recently to your resume? What's something you've done recently to your resume that you feel good about? Maybe based on a suggestion that you received or feedback you received from a recruiter or a hiring manager, or by watching one of these wonderful webinars that we do. What's an enhancement you've done recently? And I'm looking at the chat box comments. So somebody said brevity. Yeah, less is more for resumes and for interviewing. Less is more. And highlighting key certifications and not worrying about keeping it to one page. No, for professional resumes, especially if you have several years of experience or several jobs, 2 pages is actually the sweet spot. Good. And adding new skills in my technical summary. Good. Areas of expertise section. Yes, we'll show a format where you'll get to see that. And took out the columns because that can throw off the applicant tracking systems as they're trying to parse the data in your resume. So good for that. And then you updated the verb tenses. Thank you for that. That's probably the #1 issue I've seen as a recruiter when I would look at resumes. There'd be jobs in the past tense or the past, and verbs would be in the present, past, and all mixture of things. So thank you for that. And somebody says their resume has been professionally rewritten. That's good. And be sure you modify it though for each job to make sure you align to the key skills in the job descriptions. Job title, same as the headline. Good. Use more action verbs and removed italics. Yeah, I think I've gotten mixed feedback on that with ATS systems because each system is different. Most can read italics okay, but there might be a couple of applicant tracking systems that have a little bit of difficulty with italics. Okay. And by way of introduction, I have 30 years of experience as a hiring manager. I worked for many years for EDS that was acquired by Hewlett Packard. And I actually took their early retirement in 2012 so that I could go to work as a recruiter because I knew eventually I wanted to become a career coach, but I wanted that experience working as a recruiter so I could really learn the recruiting industry and learn how it works. And also I just wanted to walk a mile in a recruiter's shoes so I could see what it feels like to look at dozens and hundreds of resumes and present those to hiring managers. And I placed candidates in a variety of different roles. And I also work as a volunteer for the Dallas Pit Crew, helping with practice interviews. The Pit Crew is a practice interview team. And if you haven't signed up to do a practice interview, I highly recommend it. It's one thing to update your resume, that's good, and that can help you get in the foot in the door, but the interview is what's going to get you the job. And that's where you really need to spend your time practicing. And we've shared in the chat box information about the Dallas Pit Crew. You just simply need to send an email with a copy of your resume and a sample job description. We'll set you up with a mock panel interview, and we do those over Zoom, and we provide really valuable feedback for you. And I'm certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. To do that, I had to take a 70-question essay test, which was actually fun to me. It may sound like torture, but it was actually fun for me. I liked all those questions. And I mentioned I worked as a recruiter, and I recently retired from Next Step Recruiting, but I keep in touch with them every week. I do sometimes webinars for them, for their candidates, and also they let me know every week what their hot jobs are. And they specialize in IT positions, especially coding. If you're a programmer, IT positions, they have a lot of those. And on the more professional side, a lot of accounting and HR positions. And these are the hot jobs this week. So if you meet any of these requirements, or if you're in accounting and finance or HR, or you do coding in IT type of work or business analyst work, send me your resume, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I can get you connected with an appropriate recruiter. So right now they have a payroll manager position open for one of their clients, marketing, sales rep, several accountant positions, and they have a recruiter position, bilingual recruiter, an e-commerce analyst, for those of you that know Google Analytics, and tools like that. And they have 2 brand new jobs. They don't even have the job descriptions yet. These just popped up today. One for an instructional designer. So if anybody is a training person out there, and then also a bilingual copywriter, proofreader. Good. So, so these are just some of the hot jobs. But if you're in the accounting, finance, or HR arena and want to be connected with a great recruiter, let me know. And I do highly recommend, if you haven't reached out to an agency recruiter, reach out to 1 or 2, because they can be a valuable resource for you. They can provide feedback about your resume, feedback about the marketplace, feedback about your skills and how it aligns to the marketplace, and they would be the ones to present you to the hiring managers. So I highly recommend that. And when you reach out to agency recruiters, you don't have to pay anything because their clients are paying the fees. So that's a good additional resource for you. And this is our agenda for today. It's 2 parts. We'll cover some materials. In part 1, we'll review some information about applicant tracking systems. And then I'll share some statistics and guidance from various experts in preparation for these weekly sessions. I like to gather information from different sources and share kind of late breaking news with you. So I have some interesting statistics to share. And then we'll review key components of a resume. And then we'll look at a couple of those sample resumes. And I'm pausing to look over in my chat box to see if there's any questions. We don't have any yet. And throughout the presentation, feel free to submit a question. So everybody, if you could go into chat, if you happen to know the name of any applicant tracking systems. And these are the systems when you apply online where they're uploading your resume. If you happen to know the name of any of these systems. Somebody mentioned Taleo. Taleo's been around a long time. We use that at EDS. And then after we were acquired by HP, they actually converted over to Workday. And somebody mentioned Workday. And then iSIMS. iSIMS is just a standalone ATS system that's very popular, especially for smaller companies. And then a tool called JobVite, which I'm not familiar with. But Taleo, Workday, and iSIMS are probably the most prevalent. And the way these systems work is they read the data in the resume that you upload. That's called parsing. And they'll take the information in your resume and put it in their database, like your names, your job titles, the dates that you're with various companies. So that's what those systems do. And you don't want to use any special characters like boxes or underlines or fancy formatted bullet points like check marks. You don't want to use those because those could interrupt the parsing process. And you don't want to put any information in the header or footer because it won't read that in the system. Especially Workday will not read it. But you do want to ensure that your resume aligns to the keywords in the job description that you are applying to. And we'll show an example of that. And there's an online tool. It looks like a typo, but it's actually correct. Jobscan.co is an online tool where you can compare your resume to a job description and get feedback regarding your percentage match to that job. So if you want to do that offline, you certainly can do that. And then often the applicant tracking systems give you the opportunity to upload the resume as an attachment. And some people choose to have 2 different versions, the clean version without formatting that they upload, and then maybe a fancier version with boxes and underlines that they attach as an attachment. That's up to you if you want to maintain 2 different versions every time you apply for a job. And when you upload it as an attachment, I do recommend saving it as a PDF so it protects the formatting the way you intend it. And then you can also upload a cover letter. I don't recommend putting a lot of time into the cover letters. We do have a simple format. It's called the T table, where it lists the requirements and you can make a comment about how you meet the top 5 requirements for the job. Don't spend a lot of time on it because as a recruiter, I never had time to look at those. I had so many resumes to look at, I would just be clicking on the resumes. So you can certainly, if they ask for one, you can upload it. And it makes it look like you're a very thorough applicant when you do that. And also, I did get some input from an expert on Workday, from a consultant who actually works for Workday regarding applicant tracking systems and specifically Workday, that when you upload your resume in this system, you have the opportunity then to review and correct any data just to make sure it got uploaded cleanly, because sometimes the summary section can be interpreted as your most recent job. And so sometimes you have to clean that up. And if your name has a comma, PMP or MBA, that could accidentally go into your name field, and you may need to clean that up a little bit. So this consultant recommends taking a look at the data. And then he confirmed with me that the header and footer data won't get read and won't get parsed by the system. And if you have a LinkedIn URL in your resume, please just put it in as text, not as a hot link, because that will throw off the whole parsing process, and especially in Workday. And recruiters can sort and search, based on company criteria once they get everybody applying. And candidates match may be determined based on a questionnaire or based on maybe a third-party assessment. And he said to be sure to customize your resume to the job, because not only will the machine be reading it to look for those keyword matches, but also a recruiter may be taking a look at it too. So that's really good input from somebody who really knows Workday. And so we talk a lot about these applicant tracking systems and the fact that each one of them is different. And you may have heard conflicting information. Give me a green check mark if you've ever heard conflicting information about these ATS systems and how they read your resume. Have you ever gotten conflicting information? Yes, a lot of people have. And that's because each system is different. And then every company may implement it differently based on different configurations. So that's why you're hearing these different things from different career coaches or different experts. So keep a big picture in mind. Basically just upload a clean resume without a lot of special formatting boxes, underlines. And then if you have the opportunity to review the data that's been uploaded, take a look at that to make sure it got uploaded correctly. And then the most important thing is to contact a person. Don't just rely on the machine, but contact a person and let them know you meet the requirements for the job. That's the golden phrase that a recruiter wants to hear, that you meet the requirements, not for the job. Not that I'd really like to work there and I'm really excited about this, but I meet your requirements. I have what you are looking for. When I say contact a person, I recommend several different options. Either a connection you may know at the company, either a first level or maybe a friend who knows somebody at the company, reach out to them to see if they can refer you to the recruiter or recruiting manager, because then that increases your likelihood of getting called for an interview exponentially. Or reach out to the recruiter who posted the job. Sometimes on LinkedIn, they'll allow their name to be visible and you can see the name of the recruiter. So you can call the company's main phone number and ask to speak to that recruiter and either catch them on the phone or leave a very short 10-second message that says something to the effect, "Hi, I'm Carol. I wanted to introduce myself. I just applied for your corporate recruiting job and I meet all the requirements for the job. I have over 5 years of experience and I've recruited in whatever they're looking for, accounting, finance, or whatever." And say, "I'd be happy to have a conversation," and then leave your phone number twice. So it's easy for them. I will tell you, as a recruiter, when I got those kind of phone calls, I would thank those people because they saved me hours digging through all the resumes to find them. And I usually brought them in, and those were usually the people I hired because that shows initiative. And if you can't find the name of the recruiter, search on LinkedIn on that, on the company's page, the company's page. Like, for example, let's say you're applying for a job at Lennox International. Look on their company page on LinkedIn, follow them because that puts you in a special category, and click on people. And then you can type in a keyword like recruiting or talent acquisition and see if you can find a leader of talent acquisition and reach out to that person. And then they'll get you sent to the right recruiter. I don't recommend trying to figure out who the hiring manager is because that's hard to figure out. And it's the recruiter's job to screen the resumes and present the top 5 to the hiring manager, 5 or 10 to the hiring manager. And if you have any questions or comments about any of that, please feel free to write a comment in the chat box. And now I'd like to share some really interesting statistics I found in a couple different articles with you to give you some ideas of how it works out there. And one is 40% of hiring managers spend less than a minute looking at resumes, and 25% spend less than 30 seconds. And a lot of HR managers have caught a lie on a resume, and they're kind of looking for that. They compare your resume to your LinkedIn page to make sure it's consistent, especially the company names and the dates. I did catch somebody in a lie because it wasn't consistent, and I dug in a little bit and found somebody had been lying. So you don't want to have any appearance of any situation like that, because many recruiters have caught people lying. So you want to make sure your information is clean. And for 35% of employers, an unprofessional email address is a major problem. On your resume, you want your email address to be very professional and up to date. You don't want to have AOL.com. That's my dad, who's 93, has an AOL.com. You want to use something more like Gmail or your own, what do you call it, domain name. And you want the name to be close to your name. You may have to add numbers on it to make it unique, but you don't want it something like Carol likes kitty cats at rocketmail.com. You don't want that. You want it professional looking. And 77% of hiring managers disqualify resumes because of grammatical mistakes or typos or even spacing issues. I have seen that happen. So be sure to proof your resume, to make sure, have somebody you trust take a quick look at it to make sure there are no issues, because that would be sad if you're really qualified for a job and you make a bad impression because your bullets are out of alignment. And a resume that's longer than 2 pages is a deal breaker for some hiring managers. So, and then here's some additional information from a Forbes article. Online job ads receive about 250 resumes on average, and I'd say that number is going up right now during the pandemic when there are more candidates on the marketplace. And about 2% receive interviews, and that's why it is so important to follow up with a human being, either somebody you know at the company, or the recruiter, or the recruiting manager. So it is so important. I can't overemphasize that. And then most companies do use ATS systems. And then referrals have a 50% shot of getting an interview, whereas people just sit back and apply only have a 2 or 3% chance. So if you can get somebody in the company to refer you to that recruiting manager or recruiter, that puts you way at the top of the list. And I experienced that when I worked as a corporate recruiter. We would look through the list of applicants, and if somebody was referred, especially by a VP, I always called that person, even if that person didn't meet the qualifications, because I knew that VP that referred them was going to be calling me and say, "Hey, Carol, did you call my guy?" No, and maybe they'd be qualified for another job. Okay. And then somebody asked my opinion on professionally written resumes. Are they worth it for middle managers? And I'll provide my perspective on that. And Jeff's smiling. I'm going to ask Jeff if you have an opinion too. But I will say, as a career coach, over the last 1.5 years, I've spent quite a bit of time with people undoing some of their professionally written resumes and helping them target them more for the jobs that they're applying for, and taking out superfluous text. I don't even know if that's a word, but I see these professionally written resumes and they're pretty, but they have a lot of text and they're not aligned to the jobs. And I'm pretty nuts and bolts because I've worked as a recruiter, and most recruiters only spend about 7 seconds looking at a resume to make a decision. Is this the person I'm looking for? Does the title match these key skills are they looking for? And do they have the degree I need, the software? That's about how much time I spend. So I want something clean, easy, quick to read. So I spend a lot of time, and I've heard people spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and ones I've seen have been a waste of money. What do you?
Yeah, in my opinion, you know yourself best, and if you use a professionally written resume, it's a generic resume that tells people who you are, but you don't tell a company what it is you can do to help them because you're not being specific to the job description. That's why I encourage everybody to have a 10 or 15 page resume with everything you've ever done, 10 bullet points, 15 bullet points for each job you've ever had since high school, and include high school jobs if they're relevant. And then that way, when you see a job description, you can just go through and start deleting everything that's unimportant. If they don't ask about it on a job description, you don't need to tell them about it, because all you're trying to do is get a phone call. People will get hung up on a resume. They spend way too much time thinking their resume is just got to be perfect. No, your resume just has to tell the recruiter, yes, you meet all the requirements. So the recruiter will go, yes, I need to call this person.
Right, perfect. Thank you so much, Jeff. If that makes sense, give us a green check mark in the participant box, if that makes sense. That sometimes if you get a professionally written resume, it may look beautiful, be wordy, but it may not be what a recruiter wants to see. Okay. And if anybody has any additional comments, please let us know. And somebody, thank you, Jeff. Somebody really liked your 10-page resume tip. You know, basically make a master resume of all your accomplishments so that you can pick and choose as you're applying online. Excellent.
And you don't have to think about it every time you apply for a job because you've already thought about it. And it's something you just build upon over time, over the years. You just keep adding just a new section for your new job. And it's not something, because who can remember what you did back in 1990? I mean, you know, you may not think about it, and make it easy for yourself.
Right. And also that becomes a tool to help prepare for interviews too, as you're thinking of your star stories of your accomplishments. So good, good. And then the Forbes article also provides a step-by-step process for updating your resume and just for your job search process. So be sure to update your LinkedIn and build in your LinkedIn connections. And I know every Tuesday through Career DFW, Jeff brings in various experts on LinkedIn, and they do excellent presentations on that. And create your targeted company list and target those companies and network into those companies. Do some informational interviews. And I like this phrase. I've adopted this phrase once I read it from this article. Write for the machine. When you're uploading a resume, it's looking for exact word matches, like improved processes, not improving processes, but improved processes. It's looking for those exact keywords. So write for the machine, but then follow up with a person. And that's even more important. And let them know that you meet the requirements for the job. And then have a different conversation with the people you know. You know, if you're out of work and you're talking to your neighbor, you're mowing your yard and you're outside talking to your neighbor goes, oh, how are you doing? Say, well, I'm doing great, and I'm looking for a, you know, an accountant position. Do you know anybody? Do you have any companies you recommend? Your neighbor may know somebody. You're at Starbucks and the guy, you know, somebody's making conversation with you. I know somebody that was at a Starbucks. Somebody at the next table said, oh, what are you working on? He goes, oh, I'm updating my resume. I'm applying for a recruiter position. And the lady said, oh, call my friend. He's starting up a recruiting company. So he got an interview. In fact, he got a job. So just change that conversation. Let people know. And then use your time wisely. Pick and choose, you know, these webinars and networking organizations that are meaningful for you, where you get something out of it. Because you do want to be careful of your time so that you can be applying and you can be networking and you can be following up, and more importantly, taking care of yourself. Because I think looking for a job is the hardest job to have, because there are so many peaks and valleys. And Jeff, is it okay if I go ahead and mention the special seminar you're hosting on November 20th? We're going to be doing a webinar with a mental health professional on the psychological impact of being unemployed, and you know, what to watch out for. So, and what to do about it. So anyway, so use your time wisely, take care of yourself, and do things that bring you comfort and make you feel better. You know, if getting out and taking a walk makes you feel better. So, okay, I had another comment. All the addresses and manager. Okay, somebody said, and your master resume include all the addresses and manager information for the companies you worked for. so you have that information, I guess, for references. Good. Okay. And then some additional resume tips, especially during the pandemic. Avoid too much jargon. Recruiters are getting tired of seeing words like team player. Everybody should be a team player. Hardworking. Everybody should be hardworking. Now, if in the job description, if they say that they want somebody who can work in a fast-paced environment, it might be okay in your summary to say highly skilled at working in a fast-paced environment. That might be okay, but avoid all those other overused terms because recruiters are getting tired of those. And then also, as Jeff mentioned, don't include all of the accomplishments or results you've ever done because the hiring manager may not be interested. Just pick the ones, the results and the accomplishments that align to the type of work that you're looking for. And you don't want an overwhelming fancy format. I've seen some that are like 2 columns, and as a recruiter, I go, okay, where am I supposed to read first? You know, and then it takes me a second just to get oriented, just to see where the information is. So you don't want something too overwhelming. And I saw one that had purple italics font at the top of it. I thought that's pretty for maybe a makeup commercial, but not for a resume. So, okay, let's see. And here's a couple more tips from a recruiter. Read the job description before you apply and include keywords and make your qualifications easy to find. So they're just kind of reiterating some of the facts that we recommend. And now we'll quickly walk through characteristics of good resumes and walk through the format, and then we'll look at a couple of the ones that have been submitted today. So you want to make the formatting clean. The overall length, the sweet spot's about 2 pages. There can be some exceptions for some industries like government or higher education could be longer. And for a number of years, especially for those of us that have a lot of experience, how many years do we put on our resume? We'll put up a polling question now, and I'm interested in your feedback regarding what option you think works best for you. And this is a personal choice. So when you're thinking about your resume, do you prefer to show all of your experience or show only the most recent 10 to 15 years or show details about the recent 10, 15 years, but then have a section called prior relevant experience where you list the company names and titles? And I see nobody is showing all their experience. Now I did when I applied for a job at the age of, I was almost 60 actually, but the guys, they knew me, they knew my background, they knew I worked at EDS a long time. So I showed everything, but that doesn't work for everyone. And as a recruiter, I'd see a lot of people do that second option where they chop off the resume after, you know, the most recent 10 years, but their job titles were all VP. And I could tell they must have some other experience. So it made me wonder, you know, are they hiding something? And then so it caused a question in my mind. And then during the interview, if they mentioned a company that wasn't on the resume, I'd be looking at the resume and getting confused. So it caused confusion. So the ones I felt worked best and what hiring managers really prefer to see is the third option, where you have the most details about your most recent jobs, whether it's 10, 15, or 20 years, and then have a new heading that says prior relevant experience. And you could simply just list the company names and the titles. You don't even have to put the dates there if you don't wish, but at least that shows the full picture of your background, and the hiring manager gets a sense of seeing the progression, the full picture, and it doesn't look like you're hiding something. So, okay, so that's my 2 cents on that. And then often I get the question, how do you fill in a gap either between jobs on a resume, or let's say you got laid off in 2018, 2019, it was hard to find something. Now we're in a pandemic, and so you've had a gap for a while. What can you do? And what I do recommend is get out there and either do some continuing education, get a certification that's required for the types of jobs you're looking for, or do some community leadership work, or do some consulting, even pro bono consulting, and then add some bullet points. And then here's an example. If based on the type of work I've done, if I wanted to fill the gap at the top of my resume, I would put community leadership and consulting and list a couple of bullets, like I serve as a panelist and a coach for the Dallas Pit Crew. And then also I provide consulting services for a local nonprofit organization. Now it's pro bono, but it is consulting services. I'm helping a local church actually conduct job interviews. So, and somebody saw a spelling error. Oh, good attention to detail. Thank you. That was a private message, but thank you for that. Send me a private message as to what I had a typo on, because I do update these slides. Good attention to detail. Good. Okay. Excellent. And to these. Thank you. Good. And then key components of a resume. These are some of the key components. You may have additional components to your resume, the heading, the summary, key accomplishments. We'll talk about that as an optional section. Of course, your professional experience and education and software. So we'll show an example. And this is based on a format that I developed based on feedback from hiring managers. And it's also very similar to the format I was taught when I was certified. And in the heading, you want to make it very clean and have all of your contact information, and you don't need to include your street address anymore. And your summary profile section, this is where I spend the most time when I'm coaching people about their resumes, to have a very brief summary, just 3 lines. It's really a headline about the type of person you are and the skills that you have that, again, that align to that job description. And then have areas of expertise with about 9 bullet points. That's kind of the sweet spot, with key skills that align to the jobs that you're seeking. And then key accomplishments you can have as an additional optional section. And I see a lot of salespeople, business development people, and even recruiters that have to meet certain targets, talk about their accomplishments in this section. And that's very helpful for some jobs. And in your professional experience, you want the format very clean, easy to read, with your dates that you've been with the company, right, justified, and make sure that your verbs are parallel for the jobs in the past, that you use the past tense consistently. And for each job, try to have just 5 to 8 bullets per job, no more than that, because a hiring manager wouldn't read more than that. And your bullet points should focus on results, not just read like a job description. And if you want your bullet points to focus on results, ask the question, so what? And several of you may have heard me talk through this before, and I do this a lot when I'm coaching people. But this is an actual example. Somebody had a bullet point on their resume that said that they developed a Visual Basic program to automate the conversion, migration of data. And then I asked, well, so what? What was the result? What was the outcome? What was the accomplishment? And it turned out there were some really significant outcomes. It reduced the data migration time, eliminated errors, and increased the stakeholder confidence. And so that person ended up rewriting that bullet point to focus on those stronger verbs, reducing data migration time, eliminated errors, and increased stakeholder confidence by developing that Visual Basic program. So that's one method you can use with some of your bullet points to make it more impactful and to focus on accomplishments and results. And if you've had several jobs within one company, we recommend formatting it like this, where you put the dates, the full time you were at the company, right, justified, and then the dates for each job in parentheses next to those job titles. Because very often I see people doing the opposite, where they have the dates for the jobs right justified, and they don't even have the full time they're at the company. And then at first glance on the resume, and remember, we only spend about 7 seconds looking at a resume, looks like they were a job hopper. So you want to do it like this, so it shows the progression and shows that you've been maybe promoted, and that tells a wonderful story. And somebody asked a really good question. If we're presently working in a job, should we use present tense for that job? Yes. Yes. However, there might be a situation, maybe you completed a project. And so what I recommend is have your first bullet points with a current job be in present tense. Like I do this, or I continually do this. And then if you have a project maybe that completed, you may have to put that in past tense. Like successfully reduced or reduced vendor spend by negotiating a contract. And that might have been a one-time thing that was in the past. So for a current job, you may have a mixture. Hopefully that made sense. So thank you for that question. And then if you have a company that's changed names, there are a couple different options. You can give the current name by the company followed by the name of the, let's see, I have to do this so I can see the, I have to take off those little video icons so I can see the full screen, but you can either have the current name followed by the name, the old name, or the old name, possibly with the name of the company that acquired the company. And for example, when I retired from HP in 2012, I put HP Enterprise Services, formerly EDS, or I could have said EDS acquired by Hewlett Packard. I could have done that, depending on the situation and which company name is the most well-known. And then be sure to list your education, especially if you have degrees, because recruiters do check that, especially if a job requires a degree. And be sure to have software skills and align those to the job requirements. And this is an example of a job description on the left, and this is a job description for a business analyst job. And what I recommend, and I spend a lot of time with people on this when they're applying for jobs, be sure to read the job description, look for the keywords, look for what they're looking for. And I think I can do something. Let's see, there we go. There's a way I can hide the name of who's annotating the slide, and sometimes I forget to do that. And so what you want to do is study the job description and pull out those keywords that they're looking for. Like, you know, documenting business requirements is one of the most important things. And so be sure that's front and center on the top of your resume. And look, especially in the job description under requirements or qualifications, or here's what you bring to the job. Look for keywords like Agile in this case, or Scrum, and be sure to put those, if you have that experience, put those in your areas of expertise. And in this case, they're looking for Visual Studio software skills, so put that in your software section. So be sure to do that. And somebody asked if it's okay to use abbreviations such as FKA, and really best practice for writing is not to use acronyms. So I wouldn't advise that. Most resume writers say spell out the acronym the first time and put it in parentheses. Unless in the job description it says must have SAP experience, it's okay to put SAP. Or sometimes they say SDLC for System Development Lifecycle. If they use SDLC methodologies or something in the job description, that would be okay. But abbreviations like that, I would not recommend. Okay. Good. So back to this slide. I can't emphasize enough the importance of taking a moment and just a few minutes, whether it's 10 or 15 minutes, to really look at the keywords in the job description and make updates, tweaks to your resume to align to that job. So that'll help you both with the ATS reading your resume and the recruiter looking at your resume. Okay, so I'm gonna clear those and get out of here. And so now what I'm going to do is pause and bring up our first sample resume. And if anybody has any questions, and Jeff, you can check the FaceTime or Facebook to see if anybody has submitted any questions. I'm trying to think who was first. Let's see. Share.
I like the title, Pick It Apart Resume 2020. That's a good title.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. Now, can you see the one that I'm showing right now?
Yes.
Good. I'm going to attempt to open up my chat box and see if, okay, good, it didn't go away. Looking at the comments real quick, you can use tools like Tag Crowd. Huh, I'm going to look at that one, Tag Crowd. Somebody wrote in the chat box. Test one to tell you what words appear most in the job description. Make sure those words are in your resume. Thank you for that tip. Good. So thank you for sharing your resume. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through it rather quickly And so we can pretend we're recruiters, and I'd like for everyone to look at this resume and then go into chat and type in a couple of keywords about what you like about it. And if you see any suggestions for improvement, go ahead and write those in chat as well. So so I'm looking at the top of the resume, facilities manager, professional experience, got the full dates that we were at that company, and then the dates for the individual jobs. Good. Good. And I'm looking to see if it's right, or it's justified on both sides. Okay. Education certifications. Volunteer memberships. Okay. Good, good. It's very clean. Let's see, it goes on to 2 pages, which is kind of the sweet spot. And we've got good contact information at the top. That's all, the phone number, your email address. And that's an example of one that's very professional looking. And you probably had to add a number to make it unique in case there are other people out there with your name. Yahoo is a little older school. I happen to have a Yahoo one too. So, and then you have your LinkedIn. Good.
What are your thoughts on, in the phone number, periods versus dashes?
Well, let's see. You know, when I type a lot, I put the dot in, but I'm a techie person. So I think that's a personal preference. Dashes, maybe I lean a little towards dashes. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I lean towards that. I mean, I like dashes versus periods, but because I mean, that's any cell phone, that's what it automatically will put in a dash. It doesn't take
Dashes.
periods. And
Okay.
so I just didn't know if this is a cultural thing. I'm just trying to figure that out. So,
Yeah. So
I'm a dash person.
You're a dash person.
Yeah.
What we'll do is take a poll in the participant box. If you like the dots on the resume instead of dashes for the phone number, go ahead and
click yes. If you like
Click
if
yes.
you like dots, click yes.
Click
if
yes.
you want dashes, you're going to say no.
Yes.
That's what we want to know.
Yeah, we want to know. We're doing some searching here. Yeah, crowdsourcing.
All right, dots. All right, dots are winning.
Oh, people are moving from dashes to dots. That's why I'm saying techie. Yeah, so it's one of those personal things. And
Yeah.
that Jeff and I always say during these resume sessions, you'll get 10 pieces of advice and you may get conflicting advice from different people based on their perspectives. And it's really your job to figure out what works best for you. And it also may, what works best for the company you're applying to as well. So somebody said dashes forever. That's a good one.
Yeah,
And
so. All right.
yeah, dashes forever.
I think I would shorten underneath the very first thing in the facility manager. I don't think you need to say highly motivated, self-driven, result-oriented. I would just go versatile, certified facility manager.
Absolutely, because people are really tired of those phrases, self-driven. Everybody who goes to a job needs to be self-driven.
I don't think you need to have the word have 10 years. You just say 10 years of leadership experience.
Yes.
I think you need, because first of all, you only want it to be 3 or 4 lines probably. So you really need to read the sentence and can you do without a word that's in there for it to still make sense? And, like I said, I think have could go away. Now, I don't know about starting a sentence off with a number though.
And actually I do, I advise against actually putting numbers in your summary, because I've seen people say over 20 years of experience as a project manager, but they're applying for a job where it says 3+ years. So be careful about that. Now, if the job description does say they're looking for somebody with 10+ years of experience, you may start the sentence, and I agree, Jeff, not to start it with a number, but say highly skilled with 10+ years of experience or something, if the job description's looking for that. And the staff of 10 professionals and 2 supervisors, what if they want you to lead a group with 30 people? So be careful about that. Okay. the budget of $500,000. What if they want you to lead a $2 billion budget, or maybe it's only 75,000, or I don't know. So be careful about that. Somebody asked about the dashes under skills and expertise. Yes, I find that a little difficult to read. And I do recommend more the column approach. Then the words jump out, because here they kind of run together a little bit. You almost have to stop. And remember, those recruiters are only spending about 7 seconds. And the other
one of the questions I'm going to ask you if I ever conduct an interview is, so tell me what your top 3 skills are. And your top 3 skills better be the very first 3, or the first 3 in the left-hand column, or the first 3 across the top. So, you know, hopefully facility management, leadership, and staff development are your top 3, because if you tell me any one of the other ones, I'm going to question the resume. So
those top 3 better align to what's in the job too,
right.
as well. And then people are asking about whether or not you should use the pipe character. And again, on the resume, that makes it hard to read. If you have all the words jumbled together with just a pipe, which is that up and down line on the keyboard, it makes it hard to read. So I wouldn't recommend it on a resume. Now,
and she has room on her resume, because she's got, you know, part of the second page is empty. So, you know, you're not trying to save space here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Dashes. Okay, good. Those are good questions. And the main thing on this resume that I would recommend against is having it justified both right and left, because it causes spacing issues. And so have it just, is that right?
Left justified.
Yeah. Right justified. Yeah. Or left justified.
Left justified.
And jagged on the right, because otherwise it really causes spacing issues.
And it's not really necessary to put in the months, you know, January. I mean, you could just put down 1997 to 2020. You know, the January to October, those are just extra words that aren't necessary. A recruiter's not going to care.
Right. It's good to have that in your 10-page version of your resume, so when you're filling out the application, you have all that data, but on your resume, they're presenting, it does look much cleaner. And I see here, and I like the way you have your dates for your jobs, and you have a bullet and then a dash. I tend to just put a space and then put these in parentheses, but that again is a personal preference. And then somebody said, what about shortening the number of skills to 3 by 3? And that is the sweet spot, to have 9 and then have it in columns. I do recommend that. However, I was just helping somebody with a resume for a very complex job that required a lot of skills. And we actually went to a 4th line where we had 3 columns by 4. That's unusual, but we wanted to get a lot of those keywords in because it was a highly technical job. And we just loaded in chat this resume format template. Will the heading blue line cause an issue with the AT blue line? It could. That could cause an issue. I would leave off the line for the ATS version. And I think these blue titles will read okay in the ATS, it almost doesn't matter because they're really picking up the jobs and the dates. So if you like that visually, I guess it's okay. Right. Any other comments on this one? And then we'll see if we can, I don't know if we can spend 1 minute on the next one. Let's see, because we had a couple of, I'll pick it apart, but the other guy was first. Let's see, we'll just show this one really quick next, and then I'll turn it over to Jeff to wrap it up. Okay. Can you see this one okay, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so we'll just do a quick run through. Yeah, here's the pipe things. A little easier to read because there aren't too many of them, but still it's harder to read. And this one has 4 lines up top. Okay, here's where the dates are right justified for the individual jobs, and they're not bold. So the headings, I would have everything bold on this top line. And what I do is bold and italics and move these dates in for the second line. It looks funny to have bold and not bold all in the same line. Education and certifications. Yeah, lots of good certifications. Good. Okay. That's a strong resume. That's strong there. That's good. Okay. All right. Okay. So I think I've run out of time, and there was a third person that sent me a resume. If you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I can give you a few free minutes to give you some advice if you'd like. And thank you everyone for your active participation. I always learn from somebody, and I'm going to go check for that typo on my slide. Thank you.
Well, great. Carol, thank you very much. For those people who are on Facebook, if you'd like to get a copy of the sample resume and the sample T cover letter, just send an email to webmaster@careerdfw.org. I'll get it to you probably this weekend if I don't happen to get to it today or tomorrow. But by this weekend, I'll definitely reply back with those 2 templates for you. Tomorrow morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, our speaker is going to talk about fireproofing your future, protecting yourself against getting burned in your job search by taking the wrong job. You know, I have a feeling that in this economy, people may just go and take the first job that gets offered to them, and it may not be the best job for you. So join us tomorrow. It'll be an interesting presentation. He's lived this, you know, he's taken the wrong job and lived to regret it. So it should be a very interesting presentation tomorrow. Next Tuesday, we'll have our LinkedIn Tuesday presentation. It'll be with Locke Alderson, how to use LinkedIn for job hunting, strategies that gets results. Tuesday at 3 o'clock is the last session of the Frisco Career Transition Workshop, session 6 of 6. It'll be adapting your salary negotiations strategies during the COVID-19 period. So think about that. On Wednesday, our interview session on Wednesday at 1 o'clock, we'll be on session number 12. We'll be talking about limited time for interviewing prep. They call you today, they want an interview tomorrow morning. How to deal with difficult interviews and difficult questions, and how to cultivate confidence when you're doing an interview. All these sessions will be recorded, have been recorded. This session is being recorded and will be live, will be uploaded to the Career USA YouTube channel later this afternoon. Currently, it is on the Career DFW Facebook page, and it'll be there for people to go back and watch if they'd like. You know, we ask that you follow us on Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you'll find out, you know, you'll get a little alert whenever we go live or we post a new event. On the YouTube channel, it looks something like this. You want to click on playlist. So it's Career USA for the YouTube channel. Be sure to click with the green arrow. It says playlist. That way up will come 6 or 7 different playlists that I've put together. And then underneath it, don't click on the video, but at the very bottom, click on where it says view full playlist. And then you'll be able to see all the different sessions that have happened in order, and you can pick which ones you'd like to watch. So just as a reminder, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Carol's a volunteer, I'm a volunteer. Neither of us get paid to do what we're doing. We're just here to help you land your next great opportunity. We survive on donations, so hopefully when you do land your next great job, that you'll remember us, you'll thank us hopefully for what we've done, a little bit of advice you got from us. Please consider making a donation when you land your next job. And if your company offers matching donations, please allow your donation to double in value. Look us up on the list. If you don't see us, please reach out to me, let me know. I will get our name added to the list. I did that a couple of times last year. So thank you very much for joining us today. Hopefully we'll see you maybe tomorrow morning at 9:30 or one day next week. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you to those who submitted your resume to be reviewed. That is the favorite part of the session. Great. Thank you.